So I'll just invite you to get comfortable. You could be sitting or lying down, whatever works for you. If you're doing this exercise before our session, that's great as just an orientation to start to get a sense of what we might end up working with in session. So just closing your eyes, getting comfortable, and just starting to take a few breaths. Just inviting all of your parts to notice that you're directing your attention inside. And just beginning to become aware of that self-energy that is inherently curious, generous, kind, compassionate, present. And with that curiosity, just bring to mind whatever it is that you are curious about and interested in right now. You might just get interested in what's happening for you, what's happening in your body, what kind of sensations you notice, or something that's been going on for you before you tuned in, something that has been activating for you, something that's happened in the last little while. Feelings that might be coming up for you. Whatever it is, just noticing it and notice the sensations that go along with it. Really getting curious about those sensations. Getting to know them in a really particular way, like if there's a weight, like how heavy is the weight? If there's a contraction, how big is the contraction? Does my whole body contract, or is it just like a wincing? Just really noticing those sensations. Just breathing in that quality of curiosity, compassion, and just turning that energy towards these sensations, feelings, whatever this part is that you're exploring right now. If it feels like it's really hard to feel curious and compassionate towards the sensations that are coming up, just ask any other parts that might be coming up if they'd be willing to just soften back, just for the purpose of this exercise. They can come right back in again afterwards. And if it feels like they're not willing to because they really don't like these sensations, or it feels scary or overwhelming or whatever it may be, just turn your attention towards this part that's intervening and do the same process of being curious with that part that's intervening. So whichever part you're working with, turning towards it with curiosity, with presence, and with a non-biased energy. There's no agenda here. And invite this part of you that we're exploring to notice that you're here with it. Invite it to notice that it's not alone. And invite it to feel into your self-energy so that it can get a felt sense of how you're not apart, you're not in opposition to it, and that this is the real you. Letting this kind of golden energy of the self be in the space. Patient, kind, curious. And invite this part to share with you. What does it want you to know? As it shares its experience with you, just see if you can validate its experience. Oh, that makes sense to me. Yeah, I totally get why you'd feel that way or why you'd behave that way. Keeping in mind that every single part of us has a positive intention. From this self-energy, we can begin to understand how and why parts do what they do. What else do you want me to know? Just gently inquiring. And let whatever feelings, memories, sensations, anything that's associated that pops up, just following it like a trail of breadcrumbs. Just staying with that open curiosity. You might have other parts that pop in and say, oh no, that's not related. That doesn't have anything to do with it. Just asking those parts to soften back and just staying open and curious with whatever this part wants to show you, whatever memories or feelings might be associated or underneath this part. If it feels like a protective part that you're working with, see if you can ask it what it's concerned would happen if it didn't do this protective job. What are you concerned would happen if you didn't do this job of contracting or of lashing out or of avoiding phone calls or whatever it may be that this protective part does? If you don't do this job, what could happen? And when the part shares with you what it's concerned could happen if it didn't do that job, just seeing if you can validate it. Oh, okay, that makes sense. You feel like we could get hurt or we could be vulnerable or something bad could happen. And then just gently inquire, just like when? Just like when? Were we too vulnerable or too scared or too whatever it may be? Just like when? And just see what memories or associations pop up. If you notice more vulnerable parts starting to emerge, just seeing if it's possible to stay with that self-energy of curiosity, compassion, and a real capacity to hold space for parts of us that might be carrying more distressing memories. If it feels like this part that's more vulnerable that might be arising is too overwhelming, just ask it if it would be willing to unblend from you a little bit so that you can be with it. And if it feels like the experience is just generally too overwhelming, just let that part know that you know about it now, and that in session with myself or with whoever therapist you're working with, that you're going to come back to it with some help, with a more solid container and guidance. But if you have done this work a lot with me or with another therapist, and you know that you have enough self-energy to hold space for this more vulnerable part, then just be here with it now and let it share with you whatever it wants you to know. And you may still be with the more protective part, and that's fine too. Just keep on inquiring with it. Asking it what's hard about its job is a great question to ask if you're working with the protector part. And letting it know about yourself and the self-energy and your adult presence. Those are two great things to work with the protective part, if you're still with the protective part. But if you're working with that more vulnerable part that's carrying real traumatic or distressing experiences, just be with it as it shares with you what it really needs you to know. What we're doing here with these parts is we're building a relationship. So as the part shares with you its experience, it's continually inviting it to feel into your presence, your care, your curiosity, so that it starts to begin to know that it's not alone and that you're here with it, that you care about it, and that you're interested in it. At this point in the exercise, you can either turn off this recording and continue to spend more time with this part, or if it feels like this is complete and enough for now, you can let the part know that you're working with, that you're going to be transitioning out back into the outside world, and just see what it wants you to know before you do that. What does it really need you to know about its experience? Once it's let you know, is really honoring this part and thanking it for sharing with you today. Seeing if it has any messages about what it might need from you in this upcoming little while. And then gradually turning your attention back into the space.